George Keld, great to get you on Real Vision.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
I came across you guys from Twitter, actually. Hadn't heard about you before. And there's a bunch of people that I know were saying, hey, you need to look at KR1. And I kind of started digging in a bit. And I thought, this is really interesting what you guys have been up to. And then reached out to you. I'd love to let everybody know kind of the story of, A, how you got here, and B, what you guys are doing, because it is interesting.
Yeah, well, it's really amazing to be on with you, Raoul. KR1. We were crypto heads, and we got into the space quite early. I myself was sort of introduced to Bitcoin in 2011, and well and truly fell down the rabbit hole.
What did you see in 2011? What did you see when you saw it?
Well, I was in advertising, and I was writing a piece of research on online payments when I came across an article on it. And I was going through a little bit of a libertarian phase at the time, I suppose. And the idea that you could send value across the world sort of instantly and for very low cost seemed to me to be something to dig into and look at a lot more. And then so I started going to meetups, of which there were just a couple in London, and ended up being sort of surrounded by really interesting people doing really interesting things. It was a little bit like a call to arms. There was a lot of sort of people on stage with microphones, talking about, down with the banks and stuff like that. So I totally sort of, like I say, fell down the rabbit hole and decided to quit my job and go into whatever Bitcoin held for me, the warm embrace. And then they invented Litecoin, and it all began to kind of explode into this sort of giant Cambrian explosion of craziness. And I just followed that for years, really, and ended up part of the sort of running sort of, meetups in London. And then Ethereum happened, and then Keld and I got together. So that's I've been around the space in the UK for a while.
And Keld, how the hell did you get into all of this?
Mine's a bit of a circuitous route, actually. Quick one-liner before I started a web development agency in '94, downloaded Mosaic browser, and basically traversed the evolution of the web from Web 1 to Web 2 with another startup. I'd sold the agency to Leah Burnett in 2000. Started a social media company, and then started a mobile payments company in 2012, and basically stumbled on Bitcoin in 2013 because I was looking around for other options to have along credit cards and debit cards, and Bitcoin was the answer. But obviously there was no demand from the customer side, but I was totally hooked, and it was the missing kind of fluid money on the internet. And this, we're living in an online society. And, there was nothing that was really fitting into the internet. You couldn't really send money around very easily. So, it was just completely natural to me that, as information had become instant through the web, that money is going to become instant through this. And then, I got into Ethereum. That kind of changed everything for me. And then, stumbled into George, probably the only guy in London who was as mad about crypto as me. And then that was it, really. We just started KR1 from there.
So what was your idea when you started KR1? You get together, you go, we love all of this, we're going to start a business that invests in it. Is that, talk us through that whole process of setting up KR1, what you set out to achieve?
We had a couple of mutual friends, Keld and I, who, were sort of city guys. They knew public markets. And we got together and decided that, there was, quite a lot of money on the sidelines trying to find its way into the space. But there was no conduit by which to do it other than getting the assets themselves. But it was still too early to go and sort of create a fund, to sort of walk in and start rattling the tin, trying to collect 20, 30, 40 million. By when KR1 started, there'd been two token crowd sales. So I mean, that whole world just hadn't begun.
So what year did you start?
Early 2016. What we thought we'd do is we'd create a public vehicle that will allow that money to sort of enter the space. We'd do the buying. We'd have a public share that would track the value of the basket of assets that we bought, and that's how we got going. I mean, we were we were we raised about 300,000, I think, of which most of it went on legal fees. And Keld and I we did what we loved doing, which was going to the meetups, meeting teams. Except now we had a tiny little checkbook to start handing some out, and then our first investment, which was at the time called Melonport, now Enzyme, which is Mona Elisa's business, who's also now a non-executive director of ours. Keld came across that project, and I'm sure he's got some reminiscences about what we got up to. But it was that was sort of how it all began, really.
It was pretty crazy because we committed half the fund into it, and some kind of fun guys were like,
"That's not responsible asset allocation.
What are you doing?" And we're like, no. Honestly, we really believe that this is going to be an important part of this whole new ecosystem. We were convinced by it, and they just said, "You're totally crazy." And I think we did 44 times our money on that. So that, from that moment, we were kind of off. But our thesis never changed. Blockchains are going to be an unparalleled wealth creation opportunity in our lifetime. These decentralized networks and trustless enterprises are going to be capturing trillions of value. And that's really been the core of KR1 from day one. And it's going to be, as long as we run, really. So that's kind of at the heart of it, really. And, we just love meeting new teams, world-class teams, developing disruptive, interesting projects with the technology. And that's our simple mission, really.
So because of the structure, because it's a company, you can't raise money through equity. It's not like a fund, right? So is it that the only capital is the capital that you create from investments? How does it work?
Yeah, so you can do share issuance events. So you can't scale in the same way that a fund scales. And by the way, we have got more responsible in how we allocate funds over the years. You can grow gradually, and you can sort of mint shares and sell them to the market over time, depending on how your performance is and your share price. And so over our history, we've raised about 2.7 million. Which is not a lot, really. We've not a lot at all. We've been able to turn that into a very sizable company, and I think that's down to gradually over time learning how to pick projects, and in many ways leaning on our sort of ability to our previous experience. Keld and I have lived through every possible variation of this crypto world. I mean, back in the early days, there wasn't a single project that we knew the name of the team. The whole thing was anonymous, and so gradually over time we've come to understand, the things to look for in projects and teams, and also the sort of the wider ecosystem and where their projects fit. And really, we kind of probably didn't know it at the time, but we were heading in this direction of being able to talk to teams and sort of tease out, the aims and ambitions of these projects. And I think that's held us in really good stead. I think the market cap of the company is about 147 million. So we've got a pretty good track record, I think, of being able to meet these people and give them what they need to get their projects off the ground.
Hey, if you like this clip, be sure to check out the full interview and more only on realvision.com/crypto. It's 100% free. Sign up now.